I'm Mike Finn, an analyst at HFS Research, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Kaushik Sarawgi, Managing Director of RRD GoCreative for Asia Pacific and EMEA. We're looking to talk about RRD's social impact outsourcing partnership with Business to Rural, which has been recognized in the HFS OneOffice Awards as a finalist in the diversity category, specifically an initiative where RRD partnered with B2R to deliver employment opportunities in remote Himalayan villages in northern India. Firstly, congratulations to you and your organization, Kaushik, on this performance. If I may, can I ask you to begin by just telling the audience a little about your partnership with B2R and how it came about and where it fitted within RRD's plans?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike, for that introduction. And it's a pleasure to always talk about our social initiatives, this being one of them. With B2R, our partnership started back in 2014. At that point of time, it was just baby steps. And who would have believed that you said Himalayas, the Himalayas, the foothills where people don't even get out after 7 o'clock because there are leopards. Who would have believed that today we would have more than 150 people working on some of the most complex transactions, financial transactions rather, where they work for large global corporations and help them with their SEC filings, right? 10K, 10Q, investor reports, IPO filings. So it's been a great journey for us. The reason, of course, we did that was, diversity is core to our culture, whether it's what we control internally or what we influence externally and how we can, make a difference to the world. So when we started this exercise, of course, it was baby steps. We started off with just 15 people. And today we are 10x, and the complexity of work has always increased, in the recent past. There is a very, very big impact in the local villages, right? Because, in India, typically the percentage of women, even in our own offices, despite everything you do, is not more than 25, 30%, stretches to 35. But in places like these where there's so much of opportunity, but lack of such resources, and companies like B2R and RRD, we have a percentage of 50% of more than 50% of women population in these regions. So it's been a great experience for us, a fantastic journey, and something that we want to and wish to continue and expand as we go.
It's a fascinating journey, as you've outlined, and clearly there's huge social impact benefits there. You've talked about gender as well. You've talked about, the ways in which you're reaching populations that haven't had access to this kind of work previously. What particular challenges did you face in the early stages of establishing this partnership? What kinds of challenges did you face? How did you overcome those in the course of the partnership and developing the initiative?
Of course, loads, right? It was not a tick in the checkbox approach for us. I mean, if an organization is trying to do that, they will never be able to work through the hundreds of challenges that come in the way when you're doing an initiative like this. We spoke about leopards. We spoke about foothills of Himalayas. It's a luxury if you have a day without power outage. It's a luxury if you can connect to Wi-Fi. So situations like these are the real challenges on the ground, and to work around these, find other partners who can support you, convince your customers. I mean, that's a big deal, right? I mean, we work for the world's largest fintech company, and they have been extremely supportive, right? Working with them, convincing that, yes, this is the path we want to move forward. And how important, info security is for, such cases. Now, believe me, it's a nightmare for our IT teams to actually go there, figure and scratch their head and say, hey, how do I make it foolproof? So lots of challenges to begin with, just on the technology and infrastructure side, but then also working with the local community. People have not done that in the past. Convincing them and getting them out of their comfort zone, whether they can do it, because there is always an inhibition in everybody's mind. There are social stigmas still associated in terms of, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to go there and work in an office, and many more. So those were the initial challenges. But of course, we dig it in. It was not a tick in the checkbox approach for us. It was something that we were passionate about, and hence a big reason why it is successful today. So yes, the training for people, of course, was an important piece. We sent at least 5 to 7 resources from Chennai, which is deep south of India, all the way to the Himalayas, change multiple trains and aircrafts and drives to the hilly region, and then go there and planned themselves for 5 to 6 months to train people was again a big challenge and also an opportunity, because we knew that if we got it right, then we are making a real difference for everybody out there in the local community.
I mean, you've articulated really well there, Kaushik, the kind of scale of challenges, infrastructural challenges, security challenges that you face with a project like this. Just in terms of generating buy-in, you mentioned the local community could be a bit apprehensive. You've also mentioned that obviously your own teams have to face challenges that perhaps they hadn't encountered in quite the same way before. I mean, how did you generate buy-in internally, or is it just something that's intrinsic to what RRD is all about?
And that's core. That is core for us. One of our core philosophies is diversity. We practice that every day, and we'll talk about some of the other initiatives a little later. But when you have a buy-in at an organizational level, when they see things that we do today at the ground level to work with the local communities, there is always this urge of giving back, and that, I think, is what helps you overcome some of the challenges and continue to persist. Persistence is really important. It's very easy to take a call saying that, the first 3 days didn't go well. We don't want to risk it. We don't want to jeopardize it. Our reputation is on the line. There is a, billion-dollar customer who's working with 500 or 600 such corporations and working with them. So there is a tremendous amount of, a passion that can only fuel that inhibition. That's the only way to do it. For us at RRD, we have tremendous amount of initiatives going on, and that's where that DNA takes a shift, because you start seeing things that are happening today. I mean, we work with diversity initiatives in our own organizations every day. We're working with women-owned enterprises, helping our own women-owned enterprises locally, and how do we kind of get them to do that. It's something that we've done. People have seen it, and obviously, that kind of motivates them to do more and go beyond the norm. And also, I think from a business challenge perspective, we realize that this is imperative, right? I mean, when we start talking about decentralized service delivery systems, when we are supporting our customers with agility, one of the pieces where how we could be agile is really dip into the diverse work pool, whether it is part of India or it's anywhere globally, whether it is the usual educated employee base or the underrepresented employee base or market. How do you upskill people? How do you make a difference, and how do you take it forward? So for us to be able to be agile, nimble, and also bring in innovation, we know that we need to have that diverse bunch of ideas. I mean, diversity brings in a whole different ball game in terms of our ability to change things. And I think as an organization, we are fortunate that everybody at all levels really believes in that and is willing to make that happen.
If I can ask you a question about when you've reviewed it and you've looked back at it, and you've looked back at those early stages, developing into more maturity in the program, are there any things that you look back at and you think, if we had our time again, we'd do that particular aspect differently, or are you happy with the whole process?
Well, as far as B2R is concerned, again, I would commend Dheeraj here, who is a big part of this journey for us. So a look back here is only a delight in my mind, at least. I don't think, we could have done, of course, could we have been, instead of 150, 500 today? Yeah, why not? But, considering the challenges we just, discussed a while ago, we've actually done a pretty good job in terms of how we went about it, the support we got from Dheeraj and team, the support we got from the local community and our own corporation and our customers. I think it was, an ideal journey of what any organization would want to embark. Now, having said that, if we were to do this again, my only wish would be if we could scale it much more quicker in multiple locations. So right now we are operating in at least 2 small villages which are next to each other. Probably we could take a larger area and then continue to work and upskill people. But otherwise, I would do it 10 times over the same way, and hopefully 10 different places in the next 3 to 4 years.
Awesome. I mean, just in terms of that point about learnings, before we move on to your future initiatives, just in terms of learnings, what would you say to organizations, large organizations that want to do social impact outsourcing well. What would you say to them is the big things that they need to watch for, they need to consider when they enter into such initiatives?
Oh, there are lots I can talk about, and we can spend the next 1 hour on that. So, I'll talk about my personal bests, right? One, and I think you've heard me, and please, sorry if I'm repeating, passion is the first important piece. If organizations just want to do because it's cool, then I would recommend don't even get there. Two, it's a journey. It's not a one-step approach. I did that, I'm good, and I can bask in my own glory. It is multiple initiatives at multiple levels, because no matter what you do, today we are only probably touching 1% of the ocean, right? It's a blue sky. You've got different opportunities staring at you. Just need to open your eyes and you will see that there are umpteen number of opportunities. So it's not just one step, it's a journey. It's a vision of coexistence with your own business, because we believe business operations, bottom line, and social responsibility, they all can coexist and they all can thrive. So it's as good as doing your HR and finance operations. So that is a piece. It's not a one-step approach. And the third thing, of course, is persistence. And you will not be persistent if it is not in your passion and your DNA. So whoever is your, and everybody, today we work with multiple customers. The customers will understand you if you're passionate about it, and if you're putting the right fail safes modes in place. That is where would be my top three. And of course, baby steps. Don't boil the ocean. Start small, learn from it, get your stakeholders in, discuss. Even if you fail, once you discuss stuff with your stakeholders, you are able to then get a viewpoint and then make it better in your next opportunity that comes your way. So those will be my top four, Mike.
Great tips, Kaushik. Great tips. Just in terms of what you mentioned there about journey, let's talk about journey. Let's talk about moving forward. What's next for RRD in the diversity space? Where do you see the diversity journey going for RRD from now on? What kind of initiatives have you got in mind?
Absolutely. And as I said, it's become even more critical, right? After COVID happened, and even before COVID, I mean, we were fortunate. We did this, many years before COVID. So we had the opportunity to work with tools, technology. How do you manage these workflows? How do you engage with people remotely? How do you understand, what the local dynamics are, and how do you kind of bring the best to the table? So for us, when you talk about diversity, it's, as I said, what we control, right? In terms of what we control is our own employees and how we conduct our business. What we can influence is our partners, right? Whether it is B2R or whether it is any other company, our suppliers. And how do we influence the larger, market? So our journey continues to align to those objectives. So as far as employees are concerned, and I told you specifically today where gig economy is at the prime, moonlighting, while people see it from a different perspective, but moonlighting, I don't think is going to change. Probably it will become more guarded, and people will have boundaries, and it will be okay to do moonlight as long as there are boundaries. And of course, the global workforce. When there is no limitation to your supply chain, when everything is becoming global, you've got to ensure that your diversity projects are moving in that direction. So for us, when all of this attrition, the great resignation phase has happened, we know that we need to, from an outsourcing company standpoint, we go back and we diversify our own supply chain, right? So we work with employees anywhere globally. And when we do that, what we need to ensure is we are able to attract the right talent, irrespective of the location, irrespective of the segment, irrespective of where they come from. That definitely is one piece. What we want to do, of course, is we are now looking at seeing what we did in B2R in the foothills of Himalayas. There are now multiple such examples within our own organizations, right? When people went back to their villages during COVID and they were working from there, people are in tier 3, tier 4 cities, infrastructurally as bad as, where we have our current operations with B2R. And that triggered the thought for us is, how do we now, we know we have a microcosm. We know we have 2 or 3 employees in that location who are thriving and who are doing well for us, sitting in their homes and working. How do we now incentivize those employees to work with the local community and create a pool of resources that we can work with, right? So what we are trying to do is, we are trying to tap into the entrepreneurial instincts, and this is a project that's right now in final stages of go live. So what we are trying to do is, we are trying to tap into the entrepreneurial instincts, because everybody today wants to work with startups. So we are saying, hey, employee A, you have the option of not only working with RRD, but use your entrepreneurial instinct to identify resources in the local area that you're working in. They might not be 100% trained, but we are fine with that. Get them in. You understand what it takes to execute this work. Train them up for some time, and then bring them on board. And if the unit, it might be 5, it might be 10 people, if that unit is successful, then we work with a success fee. So we are trying to create micro entrepreneurs within our own organization who can now take this, thing back to tier 2, tier 3 cities at scale, and we are not dependent upon just one player. And then, you are getting the best of the, both the worlds there, right? So that is one very important piece we are, working on. Number 2, we are working with stay-at-home moms. Right, today there is also in India a lot of challenges around how a mother can multitask or cannot multitask, and what are the limitations. So now we are working with stay-at-home moms who have a huge urge to work, but the circumstances in their homes is not good enough, right? So we are working with them saying, hey, don't worry about it. We have a technology background that will enable you to just work part-time. All that you need to tell us is, which is that core hours of 4 hours in a day that you're willing to work, right? It might be during the time the children go to school or whatever it is. Give us that zone. We will come back. We will create an ecosystem where you can work for us for those 4 hours and be content in terms of what you're doing with your lives, right? So that's again something that we are working on. We are not only looking at suppliers with the traditional suppliers who can give us a diverse produce from a diverse organization, looking at partners like B2R who can provide us the resources, again, from a diversity perspective, looking at our own employees, converting them as micro entrepreneurs. And then the last piece is working with underrepresented segments. We got 2 batches already last year. We got them into our office. We did a formal training program for them, which is entrepreneurial, hospitality, and food chain supply training programs. Got them to be trained, and now out of the 40 of them, we know at least 6 of them have started their own ventures, right? It might be a small food stall, it might be some small manufacturing item that they're selling today. So they are making livelihoods for small little businesses, and we are trying to support them in terms of how do we help them put these stalls and go to more companies. And it's not just us, we are helping them grow in this space. So that's the 4th pillar of how we see ourselves expanding this reach and really making it go across the globe, and at the same time leverage the decentralization from our own service delivery perspective. So those are the small little pieces we are dabbling with.
Yeah, they don't sound small or little to me, Kaushik. It's been fantastic hearing about the journey. It's been fantastic hearing the story of the initiative with B2R. And I'd just like to finish by saying thank you so much for your insight, and congratulations on such a strong performance in the OneOffice Awards with the finalists in the diversity category. But yeah, congratulations again, Kaushik, and thanks for joining us to share your insight today.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, and talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.